In today's video, we're gonna rank the Japanese hiragana syllabary. And I've got my hefty tier list right here from F tier all the way up to S tier. And we're gonna see which hiragana are the best hiragana in the world. So, we're starting with a kind of scrambled collection of letters, or mora. They're also called mora. I guess we'll just start from the first one, from the top left here. We got chi. So chi, to me, personally, it kind of looks like the number 5. So I remember that when I was learning this quite a long time ago, I used to always mix it up with 5, but it kind of also makes it easy to remember. So I feel like because of that, chi is probably a pretty good tier, because so I'm thinking like how we sort this would be like, is it easy to remember? Is it hard to write, or is it easy to write? And I'm also thinking like, is it similar to others? Could also be a thing. So it is kind of similar to others, but it's not too similar. So I'm thinking this is like a strong C tier right there. Okay, so next up we've got e. So I'm thinking e is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of e personally. It's a very commonly used sound in Japanese as well. You know, in Japanese they say like, they don't say like wow like we do in English. They say more like e, or like huh. They say more like instead. So it's quite frequently used as well. So because of that, I want to say that this is like an A tier, to be honest, because it's super easy to write. It's super nice. It's just it's got all the good qualities you might want. Next up, we've got fu. So fu is kind of a funny one. Like the sound is funny. It's not the same as the F sound in English. It's not like a foo. It's like without biting your lip, so it's hu, so it's like you're blowing air out. So it's kind of cool, and it's not that hard to write either. It looks funny. It looks like a nose, sort of. It almost looks a bit like the Japanese kanji for heart, kokoro. So I feel like fu is also pretty good. I'm gonna say that out of all of these, fu is probably also an A tier, actually, next to e. Ha. So ha is kind of like a it's hard to distinguish between ha and ho sometimes, and ha also sort of looks like ni as well. So it's kind of it doesn't look that cool either. It's got like this big stroke on the left side. You're not really sure if that's a part of, like, as a beginner, you're not really sure if it's a part of it or if it just, I don't know, is something from the other kanji or hiragana next to it or whatever. I feel like this is pretty much a D tier. We're gonna be a bit nice to the ha here. Okay, so he is really good. He looks like an eyebrow. He is the same in katakana. It's one stroke and it's super easy to remember. He is clearly an S tier. We're gonna put that there. He is kind of funny. I'm not really sure what it is about he, but he just sort of, I don't know. It looks like it could be like a pacifier. It could be a lot of things. I'm gonna say that he's probably a B tier, because it doesn't have any bad qualities, but I don't really see anything that makes it stick out that much either. So we're gonna call it a B tier. For ho, so ho, like I said before, it's very similar to ha, but I would say that for ho, it's probably a bit better because it's a bit more easy to remember, I would say. Actually, no, I take it back. They can stay together in the D tier. They're both kind of D tier, both of them. E. So E is like one of the first hiragana they usually learn, and it's a pretty simple one, I would say. Only 2 easy strokes, and you know, I feel like E has some really good potential. I'm gonna say that E is an S tier. It's pretty good. It looks good, feels good, sounds good. It's got everything that you might need. So ka is very similar to the katakana ka. It's also very similar to the kanji for power because it's based off of that kanji originally. I'm gonna say that ka looks pretty cool. It's quite recognizable when you see it, especially on clothing. When someone has these like stupid Japanese words that don't mean anything, Google translated stuff, you see this a lot. So I'm gonna say that because it's that commonly used, it's probably got to be a D tier together with the ho and the ha. So for ke to me personally is kind of uninteresting. It's got this sort of line that we had on the ha and the ho, but it has this extra bend at the end. I'm not really a big fan of that. To me personally, ke is a pretty strong E tier. It's really not that interesting. So now we have ki. So again, ki is very similar to another hiragana. It's very similar to sa. And it's also, if you remove one of the lines and you flip it around, it also becomes like a chi, right? So it's kind of hard. I would say this ki is probably also like a strong C tier, because it's like, it doesn't have anything good about it, but it doesn't have anything bad about it either. I don't know. Except the fact that it's kind of easy to misread. So we're gonna put it here. 2 lines for ki, not that good. Next up we got ko. So ko is pretty nice. Ko is very strong. Ko by itself means child as well. And, you know, depending on the font, it can be 2 strokes like this, or these can be just in 1 stroke as well. It's a very strong hiragana, I would say. Like, you don't mess with ko. We're gonna put ko all the way up in A tier, because ko is really good. So let's go ku. So ku is, again, very simple. Simplicity means a lot, right? It's easier to remember, easier to write, and generally the sound ku, it just sounds really good. I'm gonna say that ku again, probably an S tier, mind you, because it's very good. It's a very strong contender here. Next up we got ma. So ma sort of looks like a key, or it could also be some kind of weird fish. Kind of hard to remember. Like you can see a sideways number 6 as well. It's generally, a lot of people struggle with this one. I'm gonna say that it's probably more like an E tier, you know. Ma is not that nice, but it's okay. I believe you can improve next time, ma. So next up we've got me. So me by itself means eye, and eyes are nice. You wouldn't be watching this video, or you would be listening to the video. You wouldn't be seeing it if you didn't have eyes, right? So I would say meh. It is also kind of meh though, because it's hard to like, even if you look at the next one here, it's kind of similar to this. It's also similar to this. Easy to mix up. It is kind of meh, but it's, again, probably a strong D tier, I would say. And next up is ah. So ah is pretty good. Ah is very, very strong. Ah is probably the first hiragana you'll ever learn if you start learning from scratch, because it's the first one in the syllabary, right? It's the first one in the alphabet. So I'm probably gonna say that ah's got to be a strong A tier. Get it? So next up we got mi. Mi is a really interesting kanji, or hiragana, because it looks like it has a lot of strokes, but it's actually one that goes down like this and then through here, and then there's an extra line there, so it's 2 strokes. It's pretty strong. It is pretty strong. I'm gonna say this is like a B tier, because it looks really good. Absolutely. Mo. So mo is pretty good, because with mo, it looks very similar to the katakana mo as well. So it has this really cool fish hook type of thing going on. I'm gonna say that mo is probably a C tier. It's a really, like, it has really good potential here, right? Next up, we've got mu. So mu has this really funny, like, it's 3 strokes, right? It's 1, 2, 3. Or it could be 1, 2, 3. Doesn't really matter. Stroke order doesn't really matter. It's kind of meh. Like, you may think that stroke order matters when you're starting out, but you might be taught that in the textbooks, but it doesn't really matter. Japanese people don't really care that much about stroke order. Anyways, mu though, I would say that mu, it's like, it's trying to do the fish hook thing that mo is trying to do, but it also got this weird kind of circle here. Makes it look a bit like a Minecraft enchanting table. I'm gonna say that mu is a bit of a try-hard. Mu, we're gonna put that on the D. It's D for now. So, na. Na is very complex. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different strokes here. It's trying very hard, right? So, na looks very complex. It's also the first hiragana that you would use if you were to write Naruto. So it is quite strong by itself. I'm probably gonna say that it's around it's a B tier. B for effort, right? So next up, kind of looks like a cat, right? You can see there's like 1, 2, and then 3 strokes. And it looks like a cat, or someone like a cat sitting on top of a fish maybe. And the cool thing is that ne is the first letter in the word for cat, neko. So I feel like, to me personally, maybe I'm a bit biased because I have a cat myself and I love cats, but I feel like neko, ne, it's pretty much an S tier, right? It's got this beautiful shape here. It reminds me of a cat. It looks like a cat. It's stepping on fish as well. It's got all the good things you need, right? So next up we got ni. Ni is basically a ko, but with an extra line. And where did we put ko? A tier, right? So what do you get when you take something that's A tier and you try to put more stuff on it? Does it become better? I don't know. It doesn't necessarily become better. But again, we got this line on the side here. I'm not really a big fan of this line on the side. I'm gonna say that this is probably, because it's not as bad as the others, right? Because it still has this A tier on the sides. I'm gonna say that this is a C tier for now, right? Next up, we've got This looks like an N and is also pronounced like an N. So this is probably one of the best ones, really. I'm gonna put this instantly S tier because it's got everything. It's got this beautiful type of calligraphy style to it, and just at the same time, it sounds good, looks good, easy to remember for us baka fucking gaijins as well. S tier, instantly. So, next up we got no. No is very, very common because no is the possessive particle. So every time you want to say my something, his something, our something, you always need no in there. So, but then again, is it that original though? Because if you twist it a tiny bit, it looks like a mirrored letter E. It's kind of boring, to be honest. Like, look at this. We're gonna put it at an E tier. I'm very sorry, but no is just not that good. It's easy to write, but it's kind of boring. Next up we got nu. So nu is, again, it looks a lot like me, which we put here, but it has this extra line at the end. So again, what do you get when you take the same thing, but you add more to it? Does it really become better? I don't know. I'm gonna put this together with D. We're not losing anything, but we're not getting anything either. It's pretty much the same, right? So, Next up, we've got O. O to me is sort of like an A, it tries to be an A by doing the same thing but changing it a tiny bit. To me, O has always been the lesser A. So, but it's not bad still. It's not as bad as D tier or E tier. However, I am gonna be nice today, and I'm gonna say that O is gonna be here. It's gonna be a B tier for today, right? Next up, we've got Ra. So Ra it's kind of cool. It does look a bit like Chi, but then again, it kind of sticks out with this like non-conformity type of, like, it's not trying to be a number 5, it's just trying to be its own thing, sort of. Ra is also the first syllable used in ramen, which is really amazing. I love ramen, so I'm gonna say that Ra is probably up here on the A tier. It's really good. Next we got Re. So Re is basically a cat that's not stepping on a fish, basically. The fish is already dead, or the fish is probably there, but it's flat at this point. So what do we say about this? Again, Re is a cool sound. We've got a lot of cool words using Re, Yure. We've got Re, 0 as well. But does it really add that much, though? I feel like I'm gonna say that Re is probably a C tier to me. Like, it's not that good, but it's not too bad either. So let's go ahead and next up we got the D. So D, this is one way to write it. There's two different fonts here. This is the like typewriter font, so it's one stroke here. It could also be one space and then another one down there. I'm gonna say D is pretty cool. D is a really nice sound. D is also used in Ringo, apple. It's used in Sharingan. It's used in a lot of different things. So we're gonna put this up at a B tier for now. Next we've got the Ro. Ro, I'm gonna say, again, you can see here that Ro and Ru, the next one, they're pretty similar looking. Ro is, to me personally, I might be biased, but to me personally, Ro has always been the Ru tryhard. It's always been the one that tries to be like a Ru, but it hasn't really gone all the way, right? So I'm gonna say that the Ro to me is pretty good. It looks, again, like a number, but in this case, it's a pretty good number. I feel like the number 3 is a lot better than the number 5. So we're gonna say Ro is gonna be a C tier, but the Ru, on the other hand, is a clear B tier. It's better. It's just better in all ways, like in any. So next up we got Sa. So Sa, to me, it's pretty nice. Sa is used in sakana, like fish. It's used in the polite suffix sang. It's used in a lot of different things. It's easy to write, easy to remember. Does, however, look like a flipped chi, but you can't always avoid that. That just happens. I'm gonna say though, it's probably pretty nice. We're gonna give it a D tier. So next up we got Se. So we're not comparing hiragana and katakana here. Se and sa in hiragana and katakana are kind of confusing when you're learning both of them, but we're just looking at hiragana today. So by itself, se is pretty cool. Se by itself generally means world. It's also the first part of sekai or seken, society as well. So it's got a nice deep meaning to it. I want to say that se, it looks kind of cool as well. Sounds cool, easy to pronounce for all sorts of gaijin around the world. I would say that this is a clear A tier. Se is really good. Next up, we've got shi. So look at this bad boy. One simple stroke. All you need, right? Clear S tier. Just from like first glance, you know immediately that it's an S tier. Next up we got So. So is kind of weird looking. When I first saw this, I had no idea how to write this, because there were like multiple ways to write it depending on the font and everything. Screw that. It is, however, actually a kind of cool hiragana. But because my first impression 10 years ago was kind of bad, it has this kind of bad connotation to me. So this is probably more like an E tier. I'm sorry. Next up we got Su. So Su has this really funny, weird thing here. Personally, I am not a big fan of this weird big circle here. But I am gonna be nice. I'm not gonna be too harsh on this one. So Su is an E tier together with So. I'm just not a big fan of these two hiragana. I'm sorry. Next is Ta. So Ta is kind of cool. It's got this sort of na looking thing, but it's not going all the way out on complexity. So again, we put na on B tier. This is kind of like the na, but it's just done it better. So Ta to me is a clear A tier, personally. I think it's really, really strong. Next we have Te. So Te, super easy to write, super hard to forget, clear S tier, really, really nice. Te. Te also means hand, so it's got the upper hand, right? After that, we've got To. So To kind of looks like a toe. I mean, it sounds like to, and it also looks like a toe. It looks like a toenail. So for visual clarity, for mnemonics, I'm gonna say it's pretty strong. But then again, I'm not a big fan of toes. So this probably is more of a B tier, in my opinion. After that, we got Tsu. So Tsu is sort of like the toe that kept the toenail on. And it's flipped as well. Tsu though, Tsu is actually quite powerful because Tsu by itself is read as Tsu, but you can also put Tsu as a smaller character, and then it becomes it sort of geminates the consonant. If you don't know what gemination means, it means like adding an extra consonant, sort of like when you have I can't remember any examples right now, but it's when you have this sort of short pause before you say the consonant, like taku versus taku, or shoku versus shoku, right? So Tsu is pretty strong. I'm gonna say Tsu is a very, very strong A tier. Next we've got Wa. Wa here is quite a deceiver because Wa is a particle in Japanese that shows the subject of the sentence, but the particle Wa is always written with Ha. So even though this is pronounced as Wa, you don't actually use it that often for Wa. Most of the time when you use Wa, unless it's in a word, it's actually Ha. So again, I feel like this is kind of weak. I feel like Wa is pretty weak. It's probably one of the weakest ones. I'm very sad to announce this, but Wa is going into the F tier. My condolences, Wa. Again, we have an O here. This is usually romanized as Wo, W-O, but it's pronounced as O. And it's kind of like, so first of all, it's kind of like a try hard, like it tries to be an O, like from the A, I, U, E, O row, but it also tries to look different. This is the object marker particle. And it kind of looks like a person stepping into a pond. And I want to give it points for creativity, but it's generally not a very good hiragana, I would say, because you could change this out. with just O. It would still be understandable. But for imagery, for creativity, we're gonna give it an E tier. So, we're on the last ones now. Ya, yu, and yo. Ya is pretty good. Ya is pretty strong. All of these are actually pretty strong, but ya specifically, you know, it has this really good shape here. It's very good lines. I'm gonna personally say that ya is probably around the D tier. For yo, yo is kind of boring. It looks a bit like the kanji for up, ue, but it's like they kind of screwed it up at the end and just made it a bit different. To me though, I'm gonna say it's not that good. It's gonna be a C tier. For the last hiragana, this is yu. So with yu, it's got this really cool kind of like, it goes down, goes back and around, and then there's an extra line here. Sort of looks like a fish, sort of looks like an eye. Generally just looks very interesting. It's very sort of captivating in my opinion. So I'm gonna say that this is probably a strong B tier actually. Yeah. And that's it. If you don't know that much hiragana already, I hope that you learned something. Stop. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of the video because it was a pretty fun video to make. I mean, I've learned hiragana for a long time. I've been studying hiragana every single day for 10 years. I've been staring at hiragana so much that if I could channel my knowledge into your head, that would make me really happy. But if you want to learn more Japanese, we have a Discord you can hop into. Link is in the description. I also stream on Twitch, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But Cyberpunk's coming out, so we'll see how that goes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.